Hello everyone, my name is Taylor from Market Car, and today I'm going to show you 21 reasons why you should get an E70 BMW X5 right now. And I'm also going to show you 6 things you should look out for when buying one. This right here is my dad's X5 30D. He's had it for 13 years now, he daily drives it, and he loves it. Which is exactly why I want to show you why you should get one as well. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to this channel sponsor, and that's you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and getting it to 1,900 subscribers. Really means a lot to me, and I've set a goal to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you want to help, you know what to do. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the video. As always, we're going to go through the list from worst to best, so make sure you stick around until the end. And with that being said, let's move on to reason 21. It's huge. This car is 1.8 meters tall, which is pretty close to the maximum height for some parking garages here in Europe. And it's 1.9 meters wide, which is almost as wide as a Ford F-150. This thing could sometimes barely fit into parking spaces. And it's also pretty heavy as well, weighing in at around 2.2 tons. Reason 20, it looks badass. Again, this is one of those that you can't really argue. This design has aged really, really well. It looks great today, even after 15 years. It was a huge upgrade in styling from the E53 generation that came before it, and arguably I'd say that it actually looks better than the F15 generation that came after it. Whether you're looking at it from the front, from the side, or from the rear, it's really hard to find a bad angle on this car. Reason 19, it has lots of torque. The 30D model right here makes 232 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque. Just for some comparison, the Porsche 911 GT3 only makes 347 pound-feet of torque. I'm not saying anything, but the numbers speak for themselves. Seriously though, for a 2.2 ton car, 230 horsepower might seem like a low number, but the torque figure really makes up for it. When you do get on the throttle, this car flies. The number 6 thing that you should keep in mind when buying one of these is that there is sadly no secret storage compartment right here underneath the driver's footwell, unlike basically every other BMW ever made. I know, really sad. Reason 18, you know how everyone says G-classes have a really hefty door sound? Listen to this. If that doesn't sound solid, I don't know what does. Reason 17, the interior. The interior of this car is great. In here, there's a combination of leather and aluminum pretty much everywhere, and the interior is aged really nicely. It's really simple. There are no weird cup holders anywhere. It's really solidly built. BMW just made it perfect. You also get these electronically adjustable leather seats which hug you really well. They adjust in any way you can think of, and the seat heating in them is probably made from toaster coils the way they heat up so fast. Reason 16, it's practical. Now right here I'm sitting behind myself and you can see that I've got pretty good leg room right here, and I've got really good headroom. I'm around 195 centimeters, 6'4", and I can fit in this car no problem. The middle seat is pretty usable as well because there's no hump in the floor. The seat is pretty wide, and you get the same headroom as the other passengers. And if that's not enough for you, you can also get this car as a 7-seater. You get 2 more seats in the back, which is perfect if you need to transport 7 people but don't want a minivan. 5th thing that you should look out for when buying this car is that some of them have a sport mode. Some of these cars came with a sport button right here below the shifter, and what it does is it basically stiffens the chassis and makes the car hug the road even harder. Some people have described it as it turns off the suspension completely and makes the car completely rigid, which is definitely something you'd want when you're driving for fun instead of to get from A to B. Reason 15, it's getting pretty affordable. The prices of these cars right now range anywhere from 10 to 15,000 depending on the mileage and the year, which is really not that much when you consider how cool of a car you're getting. And again, just like other BMWs from this era, if you take care of them, they tend to hold their value pretty well. So just like the E39, this is a car that you can buy, enjoy for a few years, and then sell at not that big of a loss. Reason 14 is the exhaust. Now the exhaust system on this car is actually pretty cool. As you can see, even on the base model you get twin tailpipes, and it actually sounds pretty good even for a diesel. Take a listen. There you go, you heard how it sounds. It sounds pretty amazing. And just like I said, that's just the base model. You can imagine how the X5M with the V8 sounds. Reason 13 are the brakes. Now the brakes on this car are huge, and they basically have to be. This is a heavy car, it's a big car, they need to stop it somehow. This car's braking system is really weird. It's something I've never seen before. When you step on the brakes a bit more sharply, the car does this really weird thing. It makes this huge sound. If you stomp, you hear that thump, right? It's like you hit a brick wall. But in this car, everything is so jumbo sized, even the braking feel is jumbo sized. Fourth thing you want to pay attention to when you're getting one of these is whether you're getting a pre-facelift or a facelift version. Now with the facelift version, you're getting a bit upgraded taillights, redesigned bumpers, you're getting an optional 8-speed transmission, more engine choices, better equipment. But with the pre-facelift, you're getting pretty good taillights, the best engine, really good transmission, really good equipment. There's not really that much to be gained, plus they don't look too different visually from the outside. Reason 12, it's really silent at speed. When you're going highway speeds in this car, you really can't hear any wind noise. There's basically zero wind noise. Even above that, the wind noise is very minimal. You can actually hold a conversation in the cabin. And just in general, this car is pretty well insulated from all sounds apart from the engine and the turbo. Reason 11 is the glove box. Now the glove box in this car is actually pretty interesting because number one, it's electrically operated. You open it with this button right here. There's no actual manual latch. And as you can see, it's actually split opening. It doesn't just open up, it splits open, which is really, really cool. And when you want to close it, all you have to do is just push one of these parts together and they both close at the same time. Amazing. This was actually kind of made fun of in Top Gear, where Jeremy Clarkson went to Australia to check if it works upside down, and yes, it does work upside down as well. Reason 10 is the tailgate on this car. Now the glove box is not the only thing that split opens on this car. You can see that when you open the tailgate, you can open it like this normally, and then you've also got a little latch right here which you can use to open up this bottom part as well. Now this is pretty useful if you want to decrease the load floor, or if you've got something large to carry, or if you just want to sit down in the back of your E70 X5. The third thing you want to pay attention to when buying one of these is if it's too big for you. Now the thing is, these cars get around 11 to 12 liters of fuel consumption at their best, which is kind of a lot, and they're just in general a bit more difficult to live with. Your parking spaces become tighter, your turning radius increases. It really is a bit of a trade-off, and then you have to ask yourself, do you really need a car this big? Yes, you do. Reason 9 is the M57 engine in this car. Now this model, the 30D, has the M57 engine. It's a 3-liter inline-6 diesel engine with a single turbo. There's a big turbo in there, and this is pretty much the best engine to get for this car because it's the most reliable. The reason why it's so reliable is that it's really old. BMW has been using this engine for a really long time. They've even used it in the E39, but that just means that it's tried and tested. It stood the test of time, and again, the only real problem that it has are the swirl flaps, which are not even that big of a deal in this car. Reason 8 are the engine choices in this car. Even in the base model, you're getting a 3-liter engine. There were no 2 liters. Now yes, the M57 is the most reliable engine for this car, but if you want something more fun, there are a lot of options. In the X5M model of this car, you've got a V8 with 550 horsepower, and if one turbo is not enough for you, you've got the 40D, which is bi-turbo, and in the facelift version, they also made the M50D with 3 turbos. So you really have a lot of fun to choose from. Reason 7 is the steering. I've said this in my previous video, but the steering in this specific car is really hard. And no, the power steering pump is not broken. The steering is really, really hard. You get a pretty good workout trying to park this thing. You have to think about it. This car is really heavy. It has really wide tires. Of course, it's going to be hard to move. And BMW knew this, and they made the steering wheel really, really thick. It's really, really solidly built. It's made out of leather, and it's got these 2 little humps at 10 and 2, which just feel perfect when you put your hands there. The steering in this car is really, really nicely done. Number 2 thing to keep in mind when buying one of these are the reliability issues. These cars are pretty reliable. I'll leave a link in the description where you can check out which engines are the most reliable. Hint, it's this one. But the thing is, if you get the different engines, you're gonna have to deal with some unreliability. Even in this engine, it was leaking oil, and my dad said that they forgot to put back in the oil leak catch pan. If you buy one of these, you're gonna have to spend a bit of money on maintenance, and then you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Yes it is. Reason 6, it's pretty fast. Now this 30D model right here will do the 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds, which is not bad by any means, and the X5M does it in around 4.7 seconds, which is really impressive when you think about it. And then the rest of the models fall somewhere in between, around 6 seconds, which is again really quick when you think about a 2.2 ton car doing 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. Reason 5, it's actually really tunable. Now I've mentioned that stock this 30D model makes 232 horsepower, and with just a simple tune you can get it up to 268 horsepower, and from 384 pound-feet of torque to 434 pound-feet of torque, which is actually more than the Huracan STO. The numbers don't lie, guys. Reason 4 is the transmission. Now, the transmission in these pre-facelift cars are 6-speed automatic gearboxes. There were no manuals, and this is actually one of the first times that BMW used this joystick shifter where it's not actually connected to the gearbox itself, it's just electronically connected. And I have to say, I really like it. I really like the joystick design, and I also really like how the transmission shifts. Even though it only has 6 speeds, it's perfect for this car. I don't really think you need the 8-speed that much. The number one thing you want to pay attention to when buying one of these is it too raw for you? Now, these days SUVs are pretty much lifted up limos, but the thing is, this car isn't really all that. You have to remember that this was one of the first SUVs BMW made. Back then, SUVs were more about off-roading and being rugged instead of being comfortable. And the thing is with this car is when you're inside, you can hear the engine, you can hear the turbo. Yes, it's fun, but it's not that comfortable. It's not as comfortable as some of the SUVs that you can buy today. Reason 3, the taillights. Now, the taillights of this car just look amazing. First of all, they're LED, which I love. And then you got these 4 little LED light strips. This part of the taillight is also supposed to be working. Usually it breaks on these cars, sadly. And what's even better is that the facelift version of this car got even better taillights. They just look amazing. So BMW really hit a home run with the taillights on the E70 X5. Reason 2 is xDrive. And no, xDrive is not a car that your X drives. It just means 4-wheel drive in BMW terms. And the X5 M E70 was actually the first M car to debut with xDrive, which today pretty much all M cars have xDrive. I think it's pretty underrated, the fact that this car is all-wheel drive, because you never really take it into consideration when you're driving, but this thing is really super glued to the floor. Like, I've had 0 traction issues in this car. You really feel stable when you're driving it, even in snow and rain and everything. Okay, so reason number 1 why you want to get an E70 BMW X5 is because it's really fun to drive. This car is an SUV. What's the first word in SUV? Sport. When we were outside, I was talking all about how this car is huge and heavy, but when you get inside, you forget about all of that. The way this car hugs the road, you feel more like it's a sports car than an SUV. I truly think that anyone can make a big car, but it really takes BMW to make an SUV. It's just so fun driving it. So those are my reasons why you should get an E70 X5. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.